Sarah Palin landed in the New York area last night and today kicked off a two-day international tour of sorts, meeting with a round of high-profile world leaders during the United Nations General Assembly. The trip was planned to bolster Palin's foreign policy cred, since she has never met a foreign head of state, and apparently being able to see Russia from her house doesn't quite cut it. Unfortunately, the McCain-Palin spin squad hijacked their own headlines this morning. Our third story in the countdown, spin control got out of control when the campaign tried to block media coverage of the governor's sit-downs. These images of Sarah Palin and Afghan President Hamid Karzai and Colombian leader Alvaro Uribe almost didn't make air. And that's because up until a little over an hour before the first meeting was to start, most members of the pool, a network producer, print and wire reporter, were told no. The only yes? A cameraman. So basically, no risk of questions and all the reward of pictures. And you know, when Fox News complains, it's bad. Ultimately, when told that no access would mean no airing of the pictures or video, the campaign relented, and later in the day, the candidate, who aside from 2 TV interviews has not been available to the media since she was nominated, allowed the press to cover a meeting with Henry Kissinger.
Okay, guys, a couple more, please.
Yeah, good.
Okay, guys, thank you very much. Thank you. Everybody, please turn around and walk out the door. Thank you.
Good.
She even answered a reporter, "Great, great," when asked how it went. Perhaps Kissinger and the governor also discussed glasnost, because later in the day, the campaign issued the following mini manifesto. "We regret the mix-up, and we're happy that the pool had access to the governor's meetings with President Uribe and Dr. Henry Kissinger. Incidentally, we here at MSNBC did not misspell Dr. Kissinger's name. That version came from Palin's gang." Richard Wolff is a Newsweek senior White House correspondent and a MSNBC political analyst. Good evening, Richard.
Good evening, David.
Richard, have Sarah Palin's people done her a disservice by further agitating reporters chasing her with that episode today?
Well, it's a curious strategy for a campaign that's basically run by communications people. Steve Schmidt, Nicole Wallace, they're all media people. And to freeze out the media and block them off from all access like this is curious. Now, the McCain campaign seems to think there's a benefit in declaring war on the media. They think it riles up the base. But these are actually very tightly controlled situations. That's why presidents love them. That's why President Bush loves them. It's very easy to use the foreign leader as a foil, just to limit yourself to pleasantries and escape with all the benefits of the photo op without any of the downside of extended questioning. So again, you have to scratch your head and say, what kind of media strategy is it? It doesn't really make any sense to keep people out when the questions are pretty innocuous.
Well, and even Fox News complained publicly about this. I mean, will this hurt Palin, or will her supporters just turn around and blame the campaign handlers?
Yeah, look, this is a situation where if they pull this off, if McCain and Palin win this election, they'll be treated as complete geniuses. The handlers will have rewritten the rules for presidential elections, and no future presidential candidate will ever talk to the press. Or people will turn around after their defeat and say, what on earth were they thinking? Why would you want to declare war on the press when you have actually a very compelling candidate with a lot of charisma in Sarah Palin who can handle these things? And John McCain, after all, made his name taking all sorts of questions from the press. So, you know, either this is going to be spectacularly successful or it's not.
Where's the tipping point here? I mean, at what point does Sarah Palin run the risk of having voters conclude that, well, if she can't handle a few questions in a row from a group of journalists, how can she handle somebody like Vladimir Putin?
Yeah, that's a good point, and I'm surprised the Obama campaign hasn't really used this one. You know, if you put yourself out there, as Governor Palin has, as a sort of tough, moose-hunting, elk-eating person, then really toughness in this sort of situation shouldn't be a problem. And the other issue that they're going to face here is that this just raises the pressure in the pressure cooker for that vice presidential debate. There's no valve here. The expectations, the questions just build up. You know, much easier to deal with these mini, again, very tightly controlled question sessions as a sort of dry run for a debate rather than letting the pressure build.
Richard, the whole point of Palin's trip to New York was to show her as a leader with foreign policy chops. Does just merely having the photos, does that help?
Yes, it does help. It takes the Charlie Gibson question, have you ever met a world leader before, off the table. And of course, remember, Governor Palin said that mistakenly that other vice presidential candidates hadn't met world leaders. Well, now she can say she's met world leaders. The photos are helpful, and it would be even more helpful if we heard her talking about foreign policy.
Now, one of tomorrow's meetings is with Bono. Why?
You know, Bono has played this extremely well. He works with Cindy McCain, he works with Republicans and Democrats. And, you know, this is all about advancing the agenda, eradicating poverty in Africa, dealing with disease. Sarah Palin, you know, he actually has got a lot of support, Bono has, from evangelical Christians and as he has from progressives and Democrats across the spectrum. So why not bring Sarah Palin into the fold?
Except that Bono doesn't seem to be afraid of the media, and all of us, of course, are going to be calling him tomorrow to see what his reaction is.
Exactly, and hope he'll help us there.
Richard Wolff of Newsweek and MSNBC. Richard, thanks as always.